Hey folks, today we're going to be discussing not this boiler, but steam skiomorphs. What we have here is an old style, there we are, old style piping. There's the former asbestos there. This is 4-inch here. I'm going to be tying onto this. There's a later addition that's 2-inch counterflow. I'm going to be tying into that. I wanted to talk about things that you can find up inside of people's rafters in these old systems. And what you're looking at is basically a indirect heater, but it was not designed to heat anything. It was actually designed to absorb any steam that got into the dry return and send it up the chimney. This was a Broomell system, Broomell, I believe. Probably don't check my spelling. It's discussed in various old books, but also it's discussed in Dan Houlihan's The Lost Art. So what happens here is that there is no trap on the outlet of the radiator. So it is possible in certain circumstances for steam to get into the dry return. And if any does, then what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to go through this radiator and shed the heat. And then if you stick, I'm not sure which end goes in, maybe this end went into the chimney here. If this went into the chimney, and the draft of the chimney would create a very slight vacuum. The Broomell was not designed to be a vacuum system. It was designed to be a vapor system only. Vapor really is a sort of marketing word, in that steam denoted power and potential danger, where vapor sounded more cuddly-wuddly. It was designed to operate at 4 ounces. So accordingly, you had a really complex device, a really Rube Goldberg device, and you see these pulleys here, which were attached to linkages to draft, controllers on the old coal fire. There's 2 more here. There's the radiator there. And I think we have one over here. And so all of these, and another one here. So you had like, let's see, how many pulleys is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got 6 pulleys. So this was a real Rube Goldberg device. That's probably where Mr. Goldberg got his inspiration, looking at some of these old vapor systems. And Broomell was one of the ones of the day, probably the turn of there's real Edwardian technology. So that's it. Now, there was another device that's long since gone that had a float control, which then controlled the pressure and kept the pressure way down. This is added later. This is the drip from the dry returns. All the dry returns came into here, and we've installed, several years ago, we installed this vent tree of 2 Gortons ganged up. And so we have, at the end of the mains, we've tapped for Gortons for the steam supply, and then the return, we've also added Gortons. And then we added a vapor stat to keep this system operating at, sorry about the glare there, extremely low pressures. So a very brief and sort of chaotic discussion of what's in your basement, or what used to be in your basement. And I hope that was at least somewhat entertaining. Thank you very much for your support, and I'll see you on the next one.